Okay, so I'll just switch cameras here. Okay, so this is what we're going to learn tonight. So pearl knotting really is the art of putting knots between pearls, and typically it is done using silk cord. And there's a number of brands out there. However, Griffin is an extremely well-known brand, and it comes out of Germany, and it works wonderfully well. So it comes in various colors and sizes. What works for most pearls is either size 3 or size 4, which refers to the thickness of the cord. And so there's just some of the colors. It comes in green, all kinds of things.
Do you suggest using silk more than other?
Yes, silk is the typical cord that is used because of its strength.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, silk is a natural product, but it is extremely strong. And that's what's typically used for silk knotting or for pearl knotting. And it started off because pearls were extremely expensive. They were not cultured. If you think back to sort of medieval Elizabeth I. Ooh, how did that happen? Oh, that's what happened. Hold on. I just lost my, there we go. Pearls were not cultured, so they were extremely expensive, extremely rare. If you think back to the time of Elizabeth I, for example. So what they would do is that they would knot it and put a knot in between each pearl for two reasons. If the cord broke, you only lost one pearl. You lost wherever the cord broke. The other thing is that it kept the pearls from rubbing together, and it kept the finish of the pearls intact. If you do rub the pearls together over time, you can rub the shiny part off, and the shiny part is called nacre. And so it was a way of preserving it. There are times when pearls have to be restrung. How often depends on how often it's worn and how well you take care of the cord. So for example, if you're wearing pearls and they say the last thing you should do is put the pearls on the last thing you do. So do your hair first, put your cologne on first, and then put your pearls on. That way your makeup and products don't get onto the pearls or to the cord. And then your pearls are the first thing you take off. So that helps preserve the pearls as well as the silk. But over time it will fray, and you just need to have it restrung. And in most cases, restringing it can be quite expensive. So I've had people quote me that it's like between $2 and $5 a knot.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So if you have something like a 16-inch piece, that's a lot of knots.
That's a lot of knots.
That's a lot of knots, and therefore a lot of money. But to do it yourself is not difficult at all. You can string pearls. I mean, pearls are now available in so many sizes and shapes, and are extremely, relatively quite inexpensive, especially freshwater pearls. Most people, if you think of Tahitian pearls and some of those very high-end things, those are saltwater varieties. So they're much deeper, a lot harder to find. They're also not farmed or cultivated, whereas a lot of your fresh pearls are cultivated. So they actually, what they'll do is they'll put some gravel or seed, like even little seed beads, inside of the oyster, and it's an irritant to the oyster. So what they do, it's like people building up a callus. You're building up this material around that sand or the little beads, so that it's less uncomfortable for the oyster. And that's how pearls are made. That poor oyster is just trying to feel
Yeah.
a whole lot better because it's really irritated by whatever is inside of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And but what it means though is that freshwater pearls are a lot less expensive. They come in all kinds of shapes and that they can be dyed. So for
Oh,
example, yeah, a lot of your pearls are dyed. Saltwater pearls can be various colors, but many of the freshwater pearls are dyed. They are typically, where did my other samples go here? They are typically white or natural color.
uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, they can be dyed pink, blue, gray, all kinds of stuff. And they can be all different sizes and shapes as well. So the same technique will do all of these. So, and these are actually Swarovski glass pearls.
They're beautiful.
And so they don't have to be expensive at all by any stretch of the imagination. So what can you knot? Well, you can knot a whole lot of stuff. Here, what I've done is I've knotted them and I've put little beads in between them. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So I've put a little bead, just a little a size 2
Uh-huh.
um, rondelle in there, just in between, just to add a little bit of texture and stuff. Um, you can also add crystals in between. You don't have to, so you can create all kinds of different patterns with it. You don't have to put knots in between each one. You can choose what else, whatever you'd like. These are very small pearls,
Mhm.
but there are knots in between each of these. And you don't have to stick with long strands either. So for example, let me just zoom out here. You can do much shorter lengths. So for example, this is a bracelet length. And then I've attached a bit of chain to each side and turned it into a necklace so that the pearls
Oh,
really are only in front.
yeah.
Um, there's a bracelet length there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also attach just a few pearls with a bit of chain to turn it into a bracelet.
Nice.
So, this is something, because the pearls are inexpensive, it's a great way of teaching kids how to wear jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a strand of pearls could be as little as $10. And then so you can create an inexpensive necklace or a partial necklace that they learn how to wear jewelry with. And it's
Yeah.
elegant enough that they really like it. And most people like pearls or something very simple. And how not to lose it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you can do with it is to incorporate stones. So
Ooh,
stones
pretty.
are actually a little bit, the holes are bigger. So you can do a much larger or thicker cord. This is using C-long cord, which is thicker than silk. It's a polyester cord, which works very well. And it's just, again, it's securing it, a knot in between each stone so you don't lose it. And but it drapes beautifully. It just has so much movement to it. And of course, you can do finer stones as well. These are amethysts. And
Wow.
so you can use them to do the very small stones. A lot of these small stones have very small holes, which works extremely well for this technique. And what's nice is that you can use colored cords to go through. So for example, I've used white cord on this,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see through it. I see the white cord. Thinking back on it, I wish I had done it with purple cord because it would intensify the colors
Oh, yeah.
of the pearls or of
Uh-huh.
the amethyst.
Right.
But here's the same thing with tourmaline. And
that's pretty.
yeah, you know,
I
moonstone.
never thought of doing it with stones or
Yes.
anything other than
Yep.
pearls.
And the same technique works well for, what did I do with the other stuff here? What did I do with it? Indy, what have I done with my other samples here? Oh, here they are. What you can also do is big hole beads and leather. So for example, these are big hole beads. They have a nice thick hole.
Uh-huh.
And you can actually put it onto, this is using 1.5 millimeter leather.
And you could knot leather?
It's the same technique, same knot. And it's this, it's, yep. So on here, I've used a button on the end as a closure and just put a button on the other side. And this is a double wrap bracelet.
Oh,
And
that's
then I can,
pretty.
yeah. So there's lots of things you can do with it. And you can also do it with like silk cord. This is satin cord, so it's a polyester cord. Same idea. Just putting it in between and, you know, doing some macrame techniques on the end, the Solomon's bar, so that it is adjustable. So once you've learned the technique, there is so many different ways of applying it that it's really quite endless what you can do. There's another example of knotted. And, you know, I've put spacers in it just for, you know, interest's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of things you
Change
can
it up
do.
a little.
Exactly, exactly. So that's some of the stuff you can do. So what to start with? Well, oh, the other thing you can do is that you don't have to have the pearls sitting side by side. This, what I've done is I've knotted, pulled two pearls down, knotted either side, and then left a little bit of space and gives you a completely different look. So you see the cord. So you can make the cord part of the design. So you could play with the color that way and have either, in this case, it's very matchy and subtle, but you could easily, you know, create something with a whole lot of contrast. So yeah, lots of ideas.
Very, very creative.
Thank you. Thank you. So to start, you know what, I'm just going to pause my recording for a moment. About that. There, sorry about that. So to start, what we're going to do is that I'm going to pull together, I'll start something new here. And so I've got a pair, I've got some pearls here. And I'm just going to grab some cords. Now, the size of cord is very dependent on the size of the hole. And an easy way of sort of getting an idea of how big the hole is to look at the cords that are going through it that are stringing it together. Okay, so the idea is that the knot doesn't slip inside the pearl, but stays on the outside. So size 3 and size 4 are sort of, there's not a lot of difference between them. It's like point something of a millimeter or something. But I do find, as I say, either size 3 or size 4 works quite well. And I'm just seeing what I've got. That's a size 3. So I'm going to use size 4 for this one because this has a little bit thicker. And I want to make sure that it doesn't slide inside. So I'm just going to get rid of some of this other stuff. So your silk looks like this. And it has a needle already attached. That's important. So if I take it out, it's on a spool here, and there's 2 meters, so roughly 6 feet, which is enough for a good long bracelet. This will do easily 2 18-inch necklaces or several bracelets. So if you wanted to do something much longer than that, you could do, you know, something, I would say, what's 18 and 18, you probably could easily do something up to about 4 feet. The knots do take up some space. But it does come on this card, and the needle is just under here. It's what it is. It's a wired needle. There we go. And it's literally just wires twisted together.
Oh,
That's all it is. And there we go. What you don't want to do is to take the needle off, because how they've attached it is that they've spun this around, and there's a little tiny hole there, and your silk is actually within there. So it's much easier just to get that onto your pearls. So I'm just going to take this off. I'll just zoom out a little bit. And you don't want to cut your cords. You're going to be dealing with the whole 2 meters at
okay.
once. Okay, so
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. Okay, save the little spool that it comes on, because anything left over you can put back on here, and you'll know exactly what size it is.
Okay.
So it's a good way. And when it comes off, it looks like this.
Mhm.
And all I'm going to do, some people like to stretch it and hang it overnight. Some people dampen it. You really don't need to. I am literally pulling it nice and tight. And as I say, it is silk. It is not going to break. It is extremely, extremely strong. And I'm just going to pull to get some of those kinks out. So I've been pulling it, and most of those kinks are out now, at least on the one end, which is the end that we're going to be building. Now, for my findings, I like to use these clamshell tips. They do not, this is another store, not That Bead Lady, but what they look like is like this. Okay, so you've got this little cupped end, and it's got a little hole. Okay, and then this part, this little hook, we're going to turn into a loop, and that's what we're going to put our jump ring and clasp onto. So yeah, so how this works, what you need is some nail polish, any kind of nail polish, one of these clamshell tips, one for either end. I also recommend some size 11 seed beads, and that's to help keep the knot that's inside here from falling out. Because once it's out, it's really problematic. The other thing, you need some fine tip tweezers and a pair of sharp scissors. Okay, so I'm just going to grab that. And that's basically all you need as far as materials in that. So to get started, I'm just going to find the end of my cord. And let me zoom in here. So there's the end of my cord, the end that is opposite the needle.
Okay.
Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie an overhand knot. It's the same kind of knot that you use to start tying your shoes.
Okay.
Just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to dab on just a little bit of nail polish, and that is going to keep the knot in place and stop any fraying. I'm just going to here. And I'm just going to put some on there and let it dry. You don't need a lot. It doesn't need to gob on or anything like that. You just want to make sure that knot is coated. We'll just let that dry for a bit, and then I'll trim off. I'll put it into here and show you how we trim it. The other thing I need is a pair of pliers. Where do my pliers go? I'll be right back. I'll find my pliers. I was teaching outside of my home. So I had all my pliers with me and I hadn't put them all back. So I've just got a pair of flat nose pliers here.
Okay.
This is dry enough now. I'm going to take out a seed bead, just one little seed bead. As I say, it's a size 11. Won't need another one till I finish the other end. And where did my cord go? Okay, so on the side that has the needle, I'm just going to pick that up like that, slide it down, and slide it down to where I've put that knot. So the whole point of this little seed bead is to make this knot a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Okay, so now what I want to do is to attach my little finding to it. So I want the seed bead and knot to fit inside of this little cupped space. So I'm going to go from the cup space out through that hole that's at the bottom.
Okay.
Pull it through. And that will sit inside like that. And at this point, I can take a pair, I find flat nose pliers work better, and try and close this. You have a round surface and flat pliers, which, can be a little bit intimidating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can get it started there, and then just tuck that inside. And close that down. Just like that. And at this point,
is there a hole that it comes out of?
Yeah.
Or is it?
That's the hole it's coming out of. So the hole is at the bottom.
Is there a hole at the top though?
The hole, no, there's no hole here.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this extra piece as close as I can to the finding. So this is what,
I see.
just like that.
Okay.
Okay. And that's why we put the nail polish on the hole on it as well, because we have trimmed it. And now that nail polish is preventing it from fraying.
Excellent.
So it's holding it together inside.
Okay.
So to be honest, this little hook is going to be a pain in the butt. So I'm just going to grab my round nose pliers and we're going to close that up into a circle. And let me just.
So it doesn't keep hooking on your.
And so it doesn't keep hooking on to your stuff as you go, because Okay, I just pulled everything down. Yeah, already started to hook on stuff. There we go. Okay, so all we have to do then is put our round nose pliers in, fill it up just like that, and just roll it closed like that.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that is ready to, we're actually ready to start threading on our pearls. So to get started, I'm just going to cut my strand here and just pull off a few pearls.
And those are fresh water?
These are fresh water. So these are
They're
what they call
very
baroque.
pretty.
They're sort of an oval. I bought these quite a while ago, so they're not expensive at all.
Mhm.
And generally, if you have, this is about a 16-inch strand. By the time you knot it, that'll give you 18 inches with your clasp and everything else. So, it doesn't take a whole lot. There we go. And all we're going to do is find the needle end of this. This is why we don't cut it. So there's my needle end.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm just simply going to start putting on the pearls. And I just simply slide them over the end. And, you know, these particular ones, they have a bit of a different ends. If you want them all going in the same direction, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just simply put them on randomly. You don't have to put them all on at once. So this, as I say, this technique is not difficult. It takes practice though. And the practice is getting in where is the act of putting your knot as close as possible to the pearls. If your first few attempts aren't successful, then you're normal.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And you know, it's one of those things that's one reason the jewelers charge between, you know, as much as they do. It's something that requires practice. And the more you do, the better you get. And if you find you have a pearl that's a little wonky and you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. Some pearls are their holes are very small. How pearls are frequently sold in the market, not necessarily to the final consumer, is that they're weighed. They're sold by weight, carat weight. So they drill as small a hole as possible. And so that's why the size of silk is dependent on the size of the hole, not the size of the outside of the pearl. It's the same as gemstones. They want to drill out as little as possible out of the gemstone so that they can sell it, that they have as much carat weight left to sell it.
You're
So,
very informative.
thank you. Yeah, it's I like to understand why things happen the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I've just got a few here. And now we can start knotting. So go ahead and knot a few more. As I say, I can't see what you're doing, but
Oh, where's my camera?
oh
I
yes,
just-
okay. I'm just going to remove, yeah, let me switch over to my other camera so I can see what you're doing, and let me pin you.
Oh,
Replace pin. There you are. Okay.
Yeah, I just put, I think they're 8 seed beads, 6
Okay.
6 seed beads.
And how thick is the cord?
It's a 2.
A 2 millimeter? Is there
It
a lot of
says-
space between?
It says size 2 on it.
Okay. Okay, so it's you may get the knot sliding over the end.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good to know.
But my needle is too big to go into the pearls that I picked out.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I could find another needle. Oh,
So what other kind of beading do you do?
I do bead weaving.
Okay. Like peyote and brick stitch and
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done this, so I feel a little out of my element.
Oh, don't worry.
And
Don't
I
worry.
actually haven't beaded in a year. My husband and my dad both died last year,
Hmm.
and I just stopped doing
Yes.
anything. And now I'm trying to get back into it. And
Oh, I'm sorry that happened to you. Was it COVID related?
no, my dad, he was 96 and just kind of shut down. And
Yeah.
my husband had a massive heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And, that was a sudden onset there.
Yeah.
But nope, I don't have any other needles. So I'll have to use my seed beads.
Okay. Not to worry.
I think just trying to make the knot would be challenging enough.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an office manager at a nonprofit called the
Okay.
First Tee,
Uh-huh.
and I've been there 20 some years. Hoping to retire at the end of next year.
Right.
I just got back from vacation. I went to Tucson to watch my youngest son graduate from
Oh,
military intelligence captain school.
good for him. I'm just
So,
going to turn off the recording. Otherwise, we don't need to record the conversation. Morning again. So what we have here, we have our cord attached to the finding, and I've pre-strung some beads, some pearls.
mhm.
And I'm just going to slide these down because I want to give myself a little bit of space. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a knot. And as I say, it's the same kind of knot you use to tie your shoes. So all I'm going to do is take it, wrap it around, let it cross, and bring it through. So it's like a regular, ordinary, everyday knot, just like that. I'm going to see if I can focus that. Why does that keep bouncing out? Okay, so focused a little bit there. You can see how,
Yeah.
okay, hold on. My camera's done something weird. Let me just go back and go back again. There we go. So as you can see, it's just a regular knot. I'm going to take my tweezers. I'm going to go under the outside of the loop, through the loop, and grab the cord by the tip of the pliers where I want that knot to be. And I'm going to hold this nice and firm. So I'm holding this in my right hand, and I'm going to take the end of the cord and start to close it up. And you'll notice that I'm pulling it to the side. I'm not pulling it like this. I want to pull it to the side so that I can make this resulting knot as small as possible. When it's as small as possible, I can let it go. And I'm going to take my tweezers and slide that knot closed. That's what it is. That's a finished knot. I, at this point, can bring down a bead, and I can do it all over again. So again, I'm going to, all the other beads are just out of the way, and I'm just concentrating on this one. So I'm going to cross it, bring it under, put it on my bead mat. There is my knot. Let me see if I can center this a little bit more. Again, my tweezers under the outside, through, and I grab the cord at the end of the knot. And I'm going to hold that nice and firm. My other hand is going to take the cord and start closing it up so it's to the side, so it's as small as possible. When I've got it where I want it, then I can slide this closed. That's the part that takes practice. And then you bring another one down. I like to just press it that way. I know that it's up as close. Again, create the knot, bring my beads through. That's why I like to close that little metal loop. Otherwise it catches on everything. There's my knot. Tweezers underneath the outside, through, and grasp. Now, if you don't quite get the knot where you want it, it can let go or be quite large. What you can do, again, you want to close it up. If you find it's not where you want it to be, you can take a couple of needles and just tease it apart and
Oh, yeah.
make And so that you can place it again where you want it. And recreate that knot. And just slide that knot closed. That's purl knotting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so go ahead and create a knot at the end of your, as I say, it's practice. Some people, I like to use the tweezers because it has such a fine end on it. It's almost, right to a point. Some people like to use an awl, which looks like this. I find I don't get as much control using an awl as I do with the tweezers, but it's the same process. You create your knot and keep your loop nice and large. You don't have to make it small, make it, difficult. You can use your awl just to position it at the end. And then you can slide it down. So either way works. I just prefer the using tweezers. And it may get a little, bumpy and stuff like that. Don't worry. The silk will relax to the point where it'll just drape. Okay, so I'm just going to remove my pin. So how are you doing there?
Well, I'm trying to get the same position you're at so I
Okay.
can follow. All right. So the needle end I have in my right hand.
So the needle end, my needle end is on the floor.
Oh.
Because my needle end, I'm not working on the needle end. I'm working on the other end of the cord. Complete opposite.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so my needle end is over there. I've got my.
So you're working on the very end of the cord, not the needle side.
Okay.
Okay.
So I do the knot.
So, yeah, you can do the knot.
Show me again how you do your knot.
Okay, so let me see. What can, okay, let me start this again. Okay, let me just pin myself here. Okay. So I'm going to start over. I'm just going to literally restart everything. So this is the very end, not the needle end.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to tie an overhand knot. And it's about an inch, inch and a half away. I'm going to secure that knot. Just a little bit of nail polish. Okay, let that dry for a minute. I'm going to grab another clamshell tip. And a seed bead. Okay, so I'm going to, using the needle, pick up a seed bead.
Yeah.
And I'm going to slide the seed bead all the way down. Now, this is the seed bead I'm using to make the knot bigger, as opposed to a bead that I'm knotting. And then I'm going to put it inside my clamshell, going from the inside out. And again, just pulling it through so that the knot and the little seed bead sits inside of the cup. And again, I'm going to close this. Make sure that everything is down where I want it to be. There. I won't trim the fiber yet, but I will close up this little hook. And that's just using my round nose pliers. Like that. Okay.
All right.
I'll trim this part later. But at
Okay.
this point, I can now, using the needle, slide on the my pearls. So I'm just going to slide on about 5 pearls.
Yeah.
And I'm going to slide them down to the end of the cord. And I'm just going to let that cord be at my side. I'm only going to deal with the end of the cord.
Okay.
Okay. So first thing I want to do is I want to add a knot right here. So to do that, I'm just sliding those pearls out of the way. I'm going to create that loop, cross it, and bring the end through. So it's just that overhand knot like that. I'm going to take my tweezers under the outside, through, and then grasp where I want that knot to be. Now with my other hand, I'm going to just tighten this up and move the knot so that it's sort of at the end of my tweezers as opposed to around it. I've got it as close as I can. Focus there. There we go. And slide my tweezers along so I can tighten it. I don't need to do a death grip. I've done that and I've broken it. So you don't need to do a death grip. But you literally slide down a pearl once it's done, and you do it again. So I create the loop, I cross it, and bring the pearl and the finding through. So I have my loop. I take my tweezers under the outside, through it, and grasp where I want that knot to be. Just like that. I'm going with my other hand, my left hand, I'm going to take the cord and I'm just going to tighten that knot up. This is still holding things in place. When I've got it where I want it to be, I can release it and slide the knot. Slide the tweezers along and close that knot. And the object is to get that knot as close as possible to the pearl. And I continue that adding pearls and knots along the length. Again, I've got my loop. Take my tweezers under the outside, through, and grab where I want it to be. Take it to the side and start closing that knot and push that closed. And we just keep repeating that. So, it's not unusual, to start and stop. Don't worry about that if that happens. But all you have to do, if you've had to do that, just cut it and release any of the old pearls. So, this is where you can go to things like Value Village or some of the thrift stores, buy some glass pearls and you can replace what's there. Just restring them.
Yeah.
So this little piece, now that I've sort of started it, I can cut this off now. There. So, yeah. So I'll just keep doing this.
Okay.
And you go ahead and, pick up where you are. as I say, this isn't a race. It's not a race. We have
Thank
lots of
goodness.
time. Yeah, no, it is not a race at all.
I'm gonna see if I have different size cord. My things keep falling.
Yeah. Do you have any satin cord, like rat tail or anything?
I might.
Yeah. It's a little harder to do it with that because it's thicker, but I mean, you'll get the same idea.
Okay.
I know you're not sitting there, Paula, but so all I've been doing is just adding them. I'm going to create a bracelet so that you can see both ends.
Ooh,
Okay, so
I did find size 4 of this bead string.
oh, okay. Does it have a needle attached to it?
No, it does not.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm not even sure why I bought that because it's nothing I use.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh,
Did you get the written instructions?
yeah, I have those
Okay.
right in front of me. So you're in Canada.
Yes,
Yeah.
in Toronto. Yeah, Toronto, Ontario.
I'm sorry for the loss of your queen.
Well, At 96 years old, I mean, she's done exceptionally well. Um, yeah, as I say, we were a military family. My grandmother, my dad's mom, was a World War One bride. So she
Oh
came from
my,
England. Yeah, she came from England at the end of World War One. And so, I mean, she made sure we knew who the queens and kings and everything else were. But yeah, it's a very, well, I won't say strange, but it's a big change. Um, in day-to-day stuff, it really has no bearing,
uh-huh,
because we have our own parliament and our own, she is head of state, but has very little to actually do with the day-to-day running of the country, same as England, actually.
yeah,
And but one thing I've always admired about her is the fact that she was always involved. And my dad fought in World War II, and the fact that the Queen also did her part. She drove an
that's right,
ambulance.
that's right.
And so she is the last world leader who has firsthand knowledge about World War II.
Isn't that amazing though?
Yep, she is the last living, one with living memory, who's in charge of running countries, or in some kind of time. Because when you think of, okay, like Biden, for example, his era was Vietnam, I believe.
Vietnam or Korea, maybe.
Yeah, which is definitely, yeah, I don't know how, but yeah, so I mean, the new leaders, the leader, the living memory is very different. So it's kind of, you don't realize how much time has passed until you
Mhm.
start thinking about things that way.
Yeah, that's what my dad would always say, because, he was 96 also when he passed,
Yep.
that you'll never see that generation again.
Yeah. No, it's true. And in one hand, you hope you don't see the same circumstances that formed that generation. um, because it's the amount of history that people at that age would have seen was phenomenal.
I know. Just, we would talk about that all the time, to go just the leaps in technology
Oh,
from,
yeah.
radio to TV to
I
airplanes.
was going to say even airplanes,
Yeah,
um, from airplanes now to rocket ships and further out, all within the space of 100 years.
yeah. We used to laugh. My dad had, ran a business. So we would talk about just adding machines
Yeah.
and how huge they used to be
Yeah.
before they had a regular calculator. It was unbelievable. I mean, a calculator when he started took a whole top of a desk.
Yeah. Well, I know with mom, it was like, how can I possibly use a computer? She grew up on the typewriter. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had manual typewriters at home. That's how I learned to type.
Hmm.
And then when I was in high school and took a typing class with electric typewriters, I
Yeah.
was like stymied.
Yeah. The old Selectric typewriters. Yes.
Yes.
That's
And you didn't
exactly
have
what I
to,
learned.
yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't have to press as hard, for the keys.
Hmm.
It's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I know with my niece, my nieces are between 25 and 35 pretty well. There's a bit of a gap in between them. And, it's even the amount they have seen, just phones, for example.
Yeah.
The fact that we can carry around a personal computer that doubles as a phone,
Yeah.
that it's phenomenal, just phenomenal.
I was telling my kids how when I was in college and I took a computer, I forget, software class, whatever they
Yep,
call it,
yep,
learned how to write in Fortran and Cobalt. And
yep.
you'd go to the computer room and it was the whole basement of one building.
Uh-huh.
And you had to key punch cards. It
Yep.
was, then you'd have to give the cards to the person in charge of the computer room that night and hope they ran it for you so you could turn your homework in.
Yep. And you hoped it was right because you
Yeah.
couldn't, it was really hard to redo.
Yeah.
What did I just drop? Okay, I'm just going to pause the recording back on. So what I've done here, I've started it the exact same way as I've started the other, with a knot, the seed bead, and then pulled it through. And then what I've done, I've simply pulled 2 beads down at once, created a knot, left some space, created another knot. One of the ways that you can do to maintain this space is that this is some of that foam, and all I've done is cut foam to the width that I want and put a little bit of a slice in there so that when I bring down the beads here, let me undo this a little bit.
I was going to ask you how you managed to get such even spacing.
So here I've put a bead, that I've got my knot here. And all I'm going to do is use this little piece of foam and use it like that. So I've put the foam on, and put this space. Actually, I'm going to create the knot first. So I'm just going to create the loop. Okay, there's my loop. And I'm going to slide this piece of foam on first before I create the knot. So all I've done, put the foam on, slid it to where I want it, and the cord on the other side is coming through. There's my knot, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to come under the outside, through, and hold this where I want the knot, just like that. And now I can close this up. Come on, don't make a liar out of me. There we go. It's a little more awkward, but there's the knot. I'm simply going to place it. I've closed it up and I can take this off, and there is my space. And now I can slide down whatever I want. In this case, 2 beads. I create another knot. And this time I don't need the foam because I'm going to place the knot right in between at the right there. Okay, there we go. Just like that. And you just go, now it's got, I want to put a piece of foam there. I'll create the loop first. Put my foam in place. I put the foam on last just so I don't have to pull it through the
through the
the
circle.
loop. Yeah. So, but
Mhm.
I've snugged it up where I want it to be. Again, under, through, and hold it where I want my knot. And just simply tighten the knot where I want it to be. So it's there. It is a little more forgiving so that if you have a slightly bigger space, no one's going to notice.
Mhm.
So it's not something, you don't have to be quite as precise. It gives you a little
Right.
bit more wiggle room. But then you bring it down again and just continue on.
I like that one.
Yeah.
That's very pretty.
Yeah. So as I say, there's lots of possibilities. And you can just simply wind it back up. You don't have to finish it all at once. You just put it on there and it's ready just to set aside until you start doing it again. So
This
what's
is
yeah, and what's also nice is because I'm leaving the space, I don't
yeah.
need to use as many pearls either.
Yeah.
So you can stretch out your pearl usage a little bit. Yeah,
It's a good idea, especially when you don't have a lot of a certain kind.
exactly. Exactly. But yeah. Do you have any questions?
I don't. I'm just love trying new things.
Good.
So,
Okay. So I feel free to send me a picture of what you've done. And or if you have questions, send a picture and I can try and answer them. But in the meantime, that's pretty well what I have.
I almost got a good knock.
Oh, let me switch. That looks good. Yes.
It's a little wobbly,
It's a
but
little, but that's okay. It's closer to where you want it. That's good.
yeah, exactly. Closer than the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a challenge. I'm up for it.
You're up for it. You can do it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
You're
it.
quite welcome. I'm just going to turn off the recording.